Hey everybody, Jayborino here. Here's something that I've neglected to do for months and months. I'm so sorry. I've never declared who I feel the winner of Maporino 2021 should be. And I think this person deserves it, so it's important that I get this out even though it's months and months late. It's my fault. Maybe I can talk a little bit more about the administrative side of this event after we talk about who won. So I'll go ahead and cut over to some footage here of Oxygen by Red Rook Lord. Was my favorite from Maporino 2021. And I say this every year, but especially this year because we had so many entries, it's very, very difficult for me to pick my favorite. You know, to say someone wins by a large margin is not really true. I think that this was my favorite, but it's hard to say by how much. There were just so many little things about this with attention to detail. Semi-roguelite with the oxygen mechanics slowly draining and moving through a level with just some randomness to it and having to upgrade certain tiers of skills and such to be able to start over and try again. So I like this idea of having a set challenge. Again, a little bit of randomness, but for the most part, it's fairly linear, but you learn little bits as you go, and then you start over and you can get through the earlier parts with a little bit more mastery of it to conserve resources for the later parts, and then you can make a little bit of progress, start over, make a little bit of progress. It wasn't too long, though, and I really liked the idea that there was a timer with the oxygen mechanic in particular. And then when I did end up winning, I was out of oxygen and running short on life at the very end. There was just something about how it all came together. This is a situation where I think that this map was actually better than the sum of its parts, and it just really hit on a fun factor for me. Again, I'd like to stress that there were so many entries that I had a lot of fun with. So to say that this one is one that really stuck with me, made me want to keep playing and be able to win, even though it went, I think, a little over an hour, which is usually where I capped playing most submissions. It just really kept me wanting to play. So there's some subconscious decision making there too, where I can look back and recognize that I was having so much fun with this that I wanted to keep going, that I think means that it also deserves that top spot for me. So congratulations, Red Rook Lord. And I have a retrospective where I went back and I talked about all of the entries. So if you want to hear me talk about yours, I'll link it in the description. It's an old live stream VOD. You can check it out. And then, of course, there's VODs for every single entry as well. And I think this kind of comes into play with why it takes me so long to make these. Last year, I think I was pretty quick, but the year before that, I waited many, many months. This year, to be fair, I have been very busy, and it's been difficult for me to do anything outside of my typical upload schedule, and then the occasional streams either with Grant or by myself on Saturdays. So anything that's kind of like a stretch goal, I've been putting off more and more and more. It's not to say that I have zero time or anything, but I'm just very busy, so when I hit the part of the day when I do have free time, there's sort of an exhaustion, a mental exhaustion that sets in where I think, you know what, maybe I won't do anything extra for the channel now. I'm very happy with what I'm currently doing. In any case, that's one reason, but separately, like I mentioned, it's so difficult to be able to make a video where I definitively say, like, I liked this entry so much, because I do think there's an implication there where, I know that I'm disappointing some other people, I guess. Is that something that I really need to be worried about? Probably not, especially because the whole point of Maporino, as I say so many times, is making sure that all of these entries are getting some time of day. They see the light of day and make sure that there is an audience so that there's some recognition for the amount of work people are putting in. Because that's really what it's about, is bringing the community together and having people show off stuff that they're spending time making and having fun doing it. Like, I spent a week, or I spent 6 months making something that I, poured my heart and soul into just because I enjoy doing it for no other reason than, like, I just sort of having fun doing it. And the idea that maybe I'll get an audience for this and have someone talk about it is really exciting, right? So I want to make sure that you're getting that. On the other hand, I know some people enter to be as competitive as possible, so I know, it may be a bit of a letdown if you don't come out as Jayborino's #1 spot or something, but I guess there's that creates a little bit of a mental block. It's very hard for me, even though there's no reward really here. I'm not worried that people are going to confront me and say I deserve the reward, because there isn't one. But it's hard to judge per se, because so many of the entries are so different. We have such a robust offering of maps that I can say that Red Rook Lords was my favorite, but it's hard to compare Red Rook Lords to, say, Andrea Rosa's submission, or Necron and UED Commander's submission, or Cool's submission. These are all very, very, very different from each other. So how can you realistically have a consistent set of judging criteria? So this is why, in a way, I don't even have a reward for winning per se. This is just saying, like, hey, I had a lot of fun with this one, and I want to make sure that Red Rook knows that, like, it really caught me. And even today, when I thought, like, I really need to make this video finally, I thought, I went back and I reviewed every single map, by the way, but, like, I just checked through my playthroughs of them, and I thought, like, yeah, it's got to be this one. So great job there. Again, I don't know if it's really even important that we talk about how the sausage is made, the inner workings of my head. I've tried to go into detail on what I want Maporino to be. I think it's a great event, and I actually got a little emotional just in private, way back when I was doing the showcasing. Like, it wasn't on stream or anything, but I was just, like, in my car. I was coming home driving from somewhere, and I was just, like, thinking about all the people that submitted and, people chatting in the Maporino Discord and all that, and how much fun people were having. And it made me mildly emotional. Like, I felt there was, like, a welling, like, I could just feel it in my chest of, like, the idea that people were just having a good time. I don't know. I can't really describe it. It's hard for me to describe, but it means a lot to me. It's not about the fact that I'm hosting it per se, but it's just this idea that it's a fairly niche genre, niche community, and people are coming together and making stuff and just sharing it with each other, and just in general, people seem to be having a good time doing that. The last thing I want is people to think that it feels like work. That's not what it's about. It's just about bringing the community together and having a good time, and I feel like Maporino 2021 especially accomplished that. That being said, I do think next year I need to be a little more stringent with the rules, because it did feel like it stretched on pretty long. This is another reason why it was hard for me to get the winners video out, because we had so many submissions that by the time we got to the end, this is a little psychological, I don't know if trick is the right word, but basically, if you can kind of declare something done, even though it's not done, your brain kind of flips a switch. And so, like, when I finally got to the last submission and I finished it and I made the long retrospective of every entry, where I talked about it for like 2 hours on stream after, I thought, like, okay, Maporino 2021 is done. And because that switch in my head flipped, what ended up happening was then I found reasons to procrastinate making a winners video. And the other thing too, like I said, is, like, the winner per se is not really the important part of what Maporino is, but it is, I think, important to have a definitive end for everybody who participated, and that's why I needed to make this video, even if it was, 6 to 8 months late. I think we were playing submissions through, like, March and April, though, so it was, it's been a long time, but it wasn't like we did it in January, and now it's pretty much the end of the year. So it was long, it was too long, it was very long, but not as long as it could have been. That's not really a saving grace. In any case, next year I'm going to try to be a little more, have a little bit more of a framework with how we just get this definitive end out for the event, because it's just been, I feel like it's something that I've let hang over my head. It's my own fault, but I've done that for so long. Tangential topic, but, I think this is very common for a lot of people, where something that should be fun eventually is something that feels like you get stuck with. You're just really not sure if it's not that you're not having fun per se, but it's kind of hard to start. When you get started, it's pretty easy to keep going. I could talk about this forever, but it's sort of like avoidance tactics, procrastination, etc., etc. And I think that's what's happened here with me. I'm happy to admit that, because I think it's hashtag relatable for a lot of people watching. But yeah, there you go. That's the end of Maporino 2021. We'll be back in 2022, maybe with just barely more strict rules with what can be considered a proper submission. And maybe that'll slim down the number of entries we get, especially entries that are, for lack of a better term, playable, completable by me. So, yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks for your support, and I'll see you for the next Maporino. Bye-bye.